His Divine Grace Abhaya, Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Mahashila, Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Goti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Vilas Thakur Ki Jai, Friends say, oh Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Ravanachananda Shidwaita Gadadha, Sivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gokulam Sayam Kunda, Radha Kunda Kiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Ki Jai, Turadam Ki Jai, Dhamikam Ki Jai, Sami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shri Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Sami Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Devi. All glories to some of the devotees, all glories to some of the devotees, all glories to some of the devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, so reading from the 21st text, is that right?
What, 21st?
Yeah.
No.
That's what Mark was. I'll go further where this thing is. Okay.
Was it 25?
25. Okay.
No.
No. 26.
I think that's what we have yesterday. Is that a first one? Maharaj,
Yeah, that's a third part. Okay. All right. So reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th Canto, chapter 24, text 27. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So I'm just going to read the text since it's prose rather than poetry. That's what you usually do, right? Atashanu charitam uparishta vishat Vishtarishyate yasya bhagavan swayam akila jagat guru narayano dvadvari kadapane avatishtate nija jananukam pitavdayo pinam ustena patadasya khandaro yojanayuta yutam digvijaya uchatitaha. So you can repeat. Tasha of Bali Maharaj. Anucharatam. The narration. Uparishtat. Later in the 8th canto. Vistarishyate. Will be explained. Yasha. Of whom? Bhagavan. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. Swayam. Personally. Akila Jagat Guru. The master of all the three worlds.
the master of all the three worlds.
Narayana,
Narayana,
the Supreme Lord Narayana himself.
the Supreme Lord Narayana himself.
Dware,
Dware,
at the gate.
at the gate.
Gadapanahi,
Gadapanahi,
bearing the club in his hand.
bearing the club in his hand.
Avatishtate,
Avatishtate,
stands.
stands.
Nija jana anukambata videha. That's hard. Whose heart is always filled with mercy for his devotees. Yena, by whom? Anugushtena, by the big toe.
By the big toe.
Pada,
Pada,
of his foot.
of his foot.
Dashakondaraha,
Sakundara,
Ravana who had 10 heads.
Ravana who has 10 heads.
Yojana ayutam,
Yojana Yutam,
a distance of 80,000 miles.
distance of 80,000 miles.
It Vijaye,
Big Vijay,
for the purpose of gaining victory over Bali
for the
Maharaj.
purpose of gaining victory over Bali Maharaj.
Ujatitaha,
Saratitaha,
driven away.
driven away.
So translation. Shukadeva Goswami continued, my dear king, how shall I glorify the character of Bali Maharaj? The supreme personality of Godhead, the master of the three worlds, who is the most compassionate to his own devotee, stands with club in hand at Bali Maharaj's door. When Ravana, the powerful demon, came to gain victory over Bali Maharaj, Vamanadev kicked him a distance of 80,000 miles with his big toe. I shall explain the character and activities of Bali Maharaj later on in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There's no purport to this text, but we don't have that much time to read a whole lot of text, so I'm going to comment on this. So, Om Gana Timiranda Shah Gananshana Shlakaya Chakshur Medikam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. So, Bali Maharaj, of course, is the grandson of the great devotee Prahlad Maharaj, but although he's the grandson of the great devotee Prahlad Maharaj, he was considered to be born in a demon family, the family of the Daityas. Of course, we have Kashyapa Muni, who was married to many different wives. Two of the wives were Diti and Aditi. And also there's Danu and other wives like that. I mean, he had all sorts of interesting children. He had bird children from Vinata, snake children from Kadru. Interesting family, isn't it? Like if you have a family get-together of all the children of Kashyapa, you probably have all the species of life available. and some of the family members will eat each other. Like you have Garuda, of course, who is also Kashyapa Muni's son from Vinata. He'd be interested in eating the sons of Kadru, who are the serpents. So anyways, it'll be an interesting feast where family members eat family members. But anyway, so that's another subject matter. So in any case, Kashyapa and Diti, they gave birth to the Daityas, or they sometimes considered demons, demon family. And demon family, genetically, they have some problems. Genetically, there's I guess a demon gene there or something like that. There is actually genetic stuff that determines one's mentality to a certain extent, like modes of nature. Of course, when we're talking about demons, we're not talking about entities with like horns necessarily on their heads. But, Krishna describes what a demon is in the Gita, so much wealth do I have today, so much more wealth do I have tomorrow. In other words, someone who's greedy. That's what a demon is, generally. You understand? So when we talk about demon or demoniac mentality, that's demoniac mentality, greed. Like there was one famous Wall Street person who said, greed is good, right? At least that was a film. And that's considered demoniac mentality. All right, so it's not necessarily that they're like Rakshasas. Rakshasas are particular type of demon who eat human beings. That's a Rakshasa, a man-eater. So there's certain genetic traits that are, let's say, inherited from one, let's say, from one generation to another. And it's dependent upon not only the genes, but the consciousness of the parents at the time of conception. But you can actually breed demons if you want. Did you know that? It's like you breed devotees. And I'll give you an interesting story from the Ramayana about this. Once upon a time, the demons felt very much disempowered because the demigods had become more powerful. The reason the demigods had become more powerful, this is a story about Bhagavatam, and also the Ramayana, is that the demigods had taken the nectar, the Amrit, the nectar of immortality, that was given to them by the mercy of Mohini Murti, the female incarnation of Krishna. And the demigods have become immortal, basically speaking. Except for Rahu, of course, who also got partial immortality just for his head, until the rest of his body was chopped off by Mohini Murti, Vishnu. So, anyway, so the demons were thinking, the head of the demons, his name was Sumali. He was thinking, how can we regain our power? We have to breed a nice demon. So they were thinking, how to breed a powerful demon. This whole science of breeding was well known. It's called eugenics. You've heard about this before? Eugenics. This is something that Hitler was into in World War II, before World War II. That is breeding, he called it a super race. It's from Nietzsche, the Supermensch, Superman, super race, whatever. And so the demons were thinking like this. Sumali, the head of the demons, the demon prime minister, he was thinking, let's breed a powerful demon to defeat the demigods. So they were thinking how to breed a nice demon. Well, we didn't have, not that we means we, but he was thinking, we don't have any powerful man demon to give the nice powerful genes to a demon. But we have some really good Rakshasa ladies. And he was thinking of his daughter. His daughter's name was Kekasi. And he said to Kekasi, my dear daughter, your business is to breed a powerful demon. And the way you're going to do that is to approach a Brahmin, a very powerful Brahmin, who is, all the mantras and powers and everything like that. So the combination will be a Brahma Rakshasa. That's the most dangerous type of demon. Well, the ordinary demons, they're just puny, like Prabhupada said. Tiny demons. So Brahma Rakshasa is so powerful, they can actually employ all the weapons of the demigods and also have demoniac powers simultaneously. It's like the worst possible combination you can come up with, right? So he sent his daughter to this sage, Vishrava. It's not pronounced Vishravas. And this sage is just an innocent sage. He was just meditating, doing his business. And previously he had been married, he was married to another lady, and he had a very nice son, and the son's name was Kuvera, who was the treasurer of the demigods. So she goes to him and basically seduces him. The poor sage is minding his business in the forest, chanting Om, Om, Om. And this beautiful demon comes to him. Because demons can be beautiful, it's not they're all ugly. So he comes to him and says, I love you. Or whatever. I'm not so expert in these areas, so I don't know what they say. So she comes and she says, I want you, I want to marry you. And he says, what? Get away from me, girl. He wasn't so attached or attracted. But she gave the argument that, if a lady approaches you, this was the part of the Vedic system, if a lady approaches you and she's not married and she's in love, you have to accept her. And she said, this is dharma. All right. And so eventually he succumbed to that argument. And they had a Gandharva marriage. Gandharva marriage means where you exchange garlands, you understand? There's different types of Vedic marriages. There's Rakshasa marriage where you kidnap the girl, like with Krishna kidnapping Rukmini. And Gandharva is where you just exchange garlands. That's like Shantanu had with Ganga Devi. And so they got married, and he basically married a demon princess. And he didn't realize that she was some demoniac, but she acted nice in the beginning. It's like a sword in a gilded sheath, where you keep the swords. So he was bewildered. And because he married this demon princess, and his brahmachari disciples recognized that, they all left, and the poor guru was left without any disciples. They said, what is Gurudev doing with this demon lady? And so, the story from their mind, don't make you remind. So can you imagine that? Your guru marries a demon. I mean, it's either household or you can be married. It's not a bad thing, but, marries this Rakshasa lady. Like, who did you marry? Rakshasini. So, anyways, or it'd be like someone's guru in ISKCON would marry a meat-eating, someone who owns a slaughterhouse. Can you imagine that? So you pretty much lose faith pretty quickly. So what happened is that she eventually gave birth, and her first son cried very loud when he was born. Screamed, basically, and therefore he was named Ravan. And then she gave birth to Kumbhakarna, and eventually Surpanaka and Vibhishan. Vibhishan, of course, was the good guy. Somehow or other she had a little goodness in her. Somehow or other devotees came by and chanted Hare Krishna while they were doing the Garbhadan stuff. And so Vibhishan was born. And Vibhishan was a good devotee. So in any case, so genetically these people were really demoniac. And then also, there's two things in raising children. There's nature and nurture. Nature is what someone's born with, and there's nurture, which is what happens after you're born. In other words, how you bring up the person. Of course, the point is that nurture is more important than nature, because by nurture, by proper samskaras, proper association, one can become a great devotee. Or by nurture, a good person can become a demon. That's interesting. I'll give you an example of a good person became a demon. There was Krishna's son by the earth planet. Krishna in the form of Varaha impregnated Bhumi, and as a result, little baby Boma was born. And this Boma later on became a demon by bad association, and Krishna himself had to kill him. That was Bhaumasura. The story's there in the Krishna book. So you see that bad association can drag down even someone who has good genes. Or good association can make someone a devotee even if he has bad genes. So there's genetic stuff, and there's what happens after you're born. So of course with Prahlad Maharaj, he had not such good genes. And by the association of Narada Muni, he became the great pure devotee Prahlad Maharaj. And actually, even sometimes in genetic, the sages were so expert they could separate the bad genes from the good genes and produce a kid through genetic engineering. Test tube babies. You've heard about that before? Like the story of Vena, when he was killed by the Brahmanas. What they did is they took, it's described, they churned the body, which is sort of a genetic engineering type of thing, and they took the bad genes out and he became Bahuka. You remember that story? And then they had the good genes, and that became Prithu and Archie. And they even got a man and his wife from the same genetic pool. Incarnation of God and incarnation of Lakshmi Devi. So anyway, so these things are there. Genetic engineering was there, eugenics was there, breeding people was there, not in a demoniac sense, except in the case of Kekashi and Vishravas that we mentioned before. But usually it was done with good intentions. You know, you get people of similar natures married, like a king married to someone, or a prince married to someone who was a compatible nature. So, but the basic point I'm making here is that association is more important, or nurture, as we say, is more important than nature. And the proof of that, of course, is that people born in the Western world with all sorts of bad qualities can actually become devotees. So like Prabhupada said, hippies turned into happies. Remember that statement Prabhupada made? So hippie means someone with multivarious qualities. Although we may extol the glories of the hippie generation, like that's part of my generation. It was the peace and love generation. You're all too young to remember that. But people were walking around with long hair and doing all sorts of illicit activities. There was this one concert series called Woodstock where they were rolling in the mud with pigs. Did you ever hear that? You heard Woodstock. And singing all sorts of songs about getting back to the garden, smoking marijuana, what do they say, drop out, be in, or something like that. And so, but that was the mode of ignorance. So Prabhupada took these very people, I mean, many of the people who joined the movement and became prominent leaders, Prabhupada found in a state that was less than desirable. You know, there was one person who was living naked in a tree in a nudist colony. You know, so here you see, by good association, something wonderful is happening. So this is the story here, that Bali Maharaj really had demoniac genes, because, you know, there was Hiranyakashipu's genes, and there's all this stuff. And he did things that weren't so nice in the beginning. What was it, things that he did not so nice? He took over the heavenly planets, got Indra out of there. I mean, usually a devotee's not going to do that. Usually a devotee's not interested in taking over the heavenly planets. He's interested in pure devotional service. I mean, Prahlad Maharaj was not interested in that at all. But Bali Maharaj, he was interested in that, and he had demoniac qualities in the beginning. Then, by the association of Lord Vamanadev, and actually it was a trick that Lord Vamanadev asked for the 3 steps from him, and doing that devotional service, which is basically was a Gyata Sukriti. I mean, it's not that he was thinking, I want to become a pure devotee of the Lord, chant my rounds and everything like that, but it was a trick. And by that Agyata Sukriti, he became such a great devotee that he became more powerful than Ravana, and as described here in the verse, and the Lord became his doorkeeper. One interesting thing about this Lord being his doorkeeper is mentioned in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Srila Sanatana Goswami. In the first part, the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, you have Narada Muni going around and glorifying different devotees, considering different devotees to be the best devotee of the Lord. At one point he comes to Prahlad Maharaj, and he says, Prahlad Maharaj, you're the greatest devotee of the Lord. And Prahlad Maharaj, he says to Prahlad Maharaj, yes, that you're so great that the Lord agreed to be the doorkeeper of your grandson, Bali Maharaj. But Prahlad Maharaj responds to that out of his great humility. And he says to Narada Muni, he says, I'm not so great devotee, Lord. First of all I do is remember Krishna. I don't do anything active. And you know, he even describes one time he had a fraternal fight with Krishna. And then he says, it's not actually a fact that Lord Vamana is just the doorkeeper of Bali Maharaj. The reason he's there is to make sure Bali Maharaj doesn't escape. You know, so he gives it a little bit different interpretation than we're having it here. He said, you know, Bali Maharaj created so many problems before, so he's actually like the prison warden. You know, the person making sure that Bali Maharaj doesn't get out of there to create any more problems. So that's out of Prahlad Maharaj's dedication and devotion and humility, you say that. But actually, Bali Maharaj has great devotion. He's completely surrendered to the Lord. He's the example of the final principle of the Nava Bhakti principles, and that's called Atma Nivedana. You know, surrendering everything to the Lord. The Lord came and took away everything, and then he had nothing else to give the Lord except for his own body, head, body, mind, and words, and soul. And he did that with the Supreme Lord. So, anyway, these are some of the points we could make here, glorifying Bali Maharaj, but it's by association that Bali Maharaj became a great devotee. So the same way, if we take good association, even though we're born in all sorts of families, like probably said, mixed caste of unknown origin, that's our business. Some other people, us of European stock, I'm also of European stock, because my family came from Europe. We were like chased out of India by Parashuram, or became Yavanas, or isn't it? Or son, anyway, so we were chased out of India for one reason or other, because we weren't really qualified to live in India. Our grandfathers, not us. Great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers. So our mixed, we're mixed breeds. Just like if you have a dog that's not a pedigree. You know what a pedigree dog is? No. Just like you have a dog. They have these dogs that go to the dog shows that have all their papers of their ancestors there. You ever seen that?
Yes.
Like when I was young, we had a Mexican Chihuahua. You know what a Mexican Chihuahua is? A little tiny dog, like about this small. And when we bought it, it had a whole list of his father, grandfather, great-grandfather. They do that with dogs. You've never seen that? Anyone ever heard of that before? That's called pedigree. Yeah. You can trace someone back to the original dog. Adi dog, So it's funny. So, and if it was a mixed breed, it wouldn't be so expensive. That's called a mongrel in English. Just some mixed breed. So we're all mixed breeds. Or in English, the word is mongrel. So Prabhupada did say, they said mixed breeds of unknown origin. Of course, nowadays they're discovering how to take some genes and actually examine the genes. You know about this, right? And find out your roots, where your family came from. You can do that. You can scrape your tongue off and send part of it. They do this. Anyone's heard of this before? Oh, yeah. And send it to the laboratory, and they'll tell you, oh, your family comes from Outer Mongolia. Or Romania, Transylvania, where Dracula came from. So they tell you this. Anyway, it's all mixed stuff. It's, the breeds, genetically, it's all useless, basically speaking. Especially in Kali Yuga, Kalo Shudra, Sambhava. Everyone in Kali Yuga is basically Shudra or less. But by samskara bhavat vijam, we can actually become twice born by what's called samskara. Samskara means a reformatory practice. And the reformatory practice in Kali Yuga, according to the Bhagavatam, is Asmat Sankirtanam Vishnu. Jangan Mangalam Ahnasam Mahatam Apikoravya Vijakantika Nishkritam is the chanting of the Lord's holy names, Sankirtan. Sankirtan, actually. That means chanting congregationally or absorbed complete chanting. And therefore, whatever our background was before is not important. We just consider what we are now, and we can become absolutely pure devotees of the Lord, if we wish. There's no material impediment. But you must take up good association. And if you take bad association, then there's this point of it, punarmushikabhava, again become a mouse, again become whatever you were before. As soon as you stop the process of Krishna consciousness, you're lax. Lax means you're not attentive in your chanting, or you're not